Have you ever had the experience of speaking in a group, maybe among friends, and walking away feeling like you were invisible? You spoke, you offered something, maybe even something vulnerable, but there was no reflection, there was no response, no mirroring, no feedback, just silence. It's like dropping a stone down a well and never hearing it land. I had that very experience recently in a group. I shared something that mattered to me, and the group kind of moved on. No acknowledgement, no resonance, and no sense of contact. And I found myself slipping into a familiar internal script. Why do I even bother? I mean, what's the point? It was as if I might as well have spoken to the wall. What struck me most was that not just the lack of response, but what it stirred in me, a much older feeling, a much younger part of me. I traced it back to my younger self, the good boy who learned early on not to cry when he was hungry, who learned not to expect attention or comfort or any kind of engagement because it wasn't safe to need, who learned that the best way to avoid disappointment was to never ask in the first place. And there it was again, alive in the room with me, the fear that if I really showed my need, if I said, come on, I want to be seen, I want to feel that I matter, I'd either be ignored or worse, abandoned. And that's the internal logic of the adapted child, the adapted inner child. Stay quiet, stay pleasing, don't rock the boat, and maybe you'll stay safe. But something deeper was happening because now I could see the pattern. And when we can see a pattern, we can begin to choose, not instantly, not even easily, but deliberately. And here's the choice I've faced. Do I continue to perform that role that feels safe, controlled, composed, self-reliant, or do I risk something more authentic? Do I risk being myself? Because risking being yourself is exactly that, a risk. It means showing the parts of you that are uncertain, tender, perhaps even needy. It means saying, this matters to me. It means asking, not knowing whether the answer will either comfort or wound you. And let's be honest, there's always a risk it won't go how you hoped it would. That the silence will come again. That others won't meet you where you are. That your need will be too much or too unclear or simply missed. But the greater risk, the deeper cost, is actually staying hidden, staying managed, staying edited, because over time that becomes a kind of emotional self-abandonment. You keep offering versions of yourself that others can digest, but never offering the version that longs to be known. So in that moment, I did something different. I didn't rage, I didn't collapse. I simply named it. I said something like, I know this might feel awkward, but I need to know if what I've just shared has landed. I need to know that I've been heard. It wasn't a demand. It wasn't manipulation. It was a vulnerable ask made in awareness. And that's the key. It wasn't about the group getting it right. It was about me getting it honest. Now, not everyone in the group responded. Some still sat in silence, but someone looked up, someone nodded. And that tiny thread of contact, of responsiveness, was enough to let something new begin. Not just repair in the group, but repair in me. Because I had stayed with myself. I'd chosen in that moment not to disappear. This is what it means to risk being yourself. It's not about oversharing or dominating a conversation or demanding emotional labor from others. It's about being clear about what you feel and what you hope for, whilst also holding the capacity to tolerate disappointment if what you want doesn't come. It's about trusting that your needs aren't shameful, that your voice matters, even if it doesn't echo back the way you wanted. It's about daring to be seen, not because you're guaranteed to be met and seen, but because you're worth showing up for by others, yes, but first and foremost by yourself. One of the hardest truths in healing work is this: the depths of childhood can never fully be repaid. What we lost in those early years, the attunement, comfort, being felt and known, those losses run deep, and sometimes they feel irreparable. But what is possible here and now is to stop pretending we didn't need what we needed, to grieve it without turning bitter or resentful, and to begin building relationships where those needs can at least be recognized, even if not perfectly fulfilled. In that sense, every moment of unmet need becomes a new opportunity not to, re-traumatize ourselves, but to stay conscious, to stay in contact, to stay with ourselves. That's the heart of integration, and ultimately that's the beginning of belonging. Not waiting for the world to finally get it right, but refusing to disappear just because it hasn't got it right yet. So if you're watching this and you felt invisible or muted, or like your voice just bounces off the walls, this is what I want you to hear. Your need for connection is not a flaw. Your longing to be seen is not excessive. It's human, it's sacred, and yes, it's risky. But the only way to belong is to bring yourself into the room, because until you risk being yourself, there's no one there to belong. If you'd like help coming out as much as who you are, get in touch. Visit my website, book a free discovery call, and let's see what's possible.